Hi, welcome to Legal Literacy series, and I'm very happy to introduce you the new area of discussion, and that's going to be on the consumer rights. And as a first episode of the consumer rights, I'm talking about something which we often use it, but we rarely know or understand it. That is e-commerce. So today is going to be, or this episode is going to be a kind of a curtain raiser. So before I start my discussion on this, let me put it a small disclaimer that I might end up using the name of the product, the company, corporations, or even sometimes I may comment on them, but it's purely for the purpose of educational purpose, and I'm not neither publicizing it or nor criticizing the product of those companies. This is a merely educational purpose. Having said that, let us try to understand the idea of e-commerce. Now, e-commerce has got six uh, components, and in these six components there are three players involved. Business houses are involved in one way, and where they interact with consumers as well as they interact with fellow business people. Second is the consumer. The consumer sometimes involved with himself, this is another consumer, or it may deal with the business houses. Then interestingly there is a third party, and that is the state, the administration. The administration deals with consumers to some extent as well as business houses to some extent. All these three players utilize electronic communications to the fullest, and they classify them as e-commerce. So let us try to understand all these different kinds of what should I say, the dealings, the relationship that has been established. The first relationship which I'm going to talk about would be of this business to business relationship. So I said there are six types, and out of this the first type is business to business, and which is popularly called as B2B. So someone who wants to do any manufacturing activity, they need raw materials. So the raw material producer, supplier would be contacted, and that can be done, the deal can be done through e-commerce or electronical mode, and that qualifies to be e-commerce. Sometimes the supply chain, once the product is ready, it needs to be sent to nuke and corner of the country. So for that we need a supply chain, and that again the contract could be done through electronic mode. Marketing, another example, and e-market. Now that's the best example of a B2B relationship, where Amazon is a marketplace where all the companies have a contract with Amazon to showcase their product. A neighborhood retailer can have a space in Amazon, and he can sell the products through Amazon. This is B2B. Then B2A, that is business to administration. Now this is commonly, sometimes business houses have to deal with administration because they have to obtain various permissions and etc. That also can be done through electronic process, and that is B2A, electronic or e-commerce. Like ESI registration, employees state insurance registration is required, members has to be registered, license are necessary for most of the FMCG products, and registration is also necessary. You require more and more permits to do the business, and this is done in an electronic format, and this is another type of e-commerce, B2A. Then we have C2A, that is consumer to administration. Now consumer and administration, here the consumer seems to be a misnomer because we are talking about citizen or a persons living in a city, state, or the nation. So he may have to apply for Aadhaar registration, he does it online, that's e-commerce. Driving license, he again can apply online, that's again another example of e-commerce. So where the common man interact with the administration through this e-commerce platforms. permits also he may obtain many permits for construction of houses, etc. Then we have consumer to business. Now please, this is C to B. Now there is another common, very common relationship, that is B to C. Now this is C to B, where the consumer is dealing with the business houses. Now here what happens is the consumer provides certain openings to the business houses, like a newly found word called influencer. Now they are found on the net and they really influence the opinion of the public, and these influencers can showcase business products in their programs or in their time span on the net. And sometimes blogger can also provide these things. So what they do is they provide commercial space in their program. So that is consumer to business arrangement. Now we don't call them as celebrities because they do not obtain they are not reached the status of the celebrity, but they are still considered to be a consumer who has a reach and which business houses wants to exploit. The next is consumer to consumer. This again is quite rare one, C to C, where a consumer is interacting with another consumer electronically through e-commerce. Best example is usage transfer of money through Paytm, Amazon Pay, etc, etc. Now this is where one consumer is dealing with another consumer using the Paytm app. Now that amounts to e-commerce between consumer to consumer. Sale by an individual, where one individual is selling a product to another individual through electronic process. That's again the consumer to consumer. Then the most common one, business to consumer. So now B to C. There's a business house and there's a consumer and they want to do series of sale, service, etc. So this is the most common e-commerce that we come across, but doesn't mean that it is the only e-commerce that we have. We have 6 types of e-commerces and this happens to be the most important one. So where protecting a consumer, the idea of protecting consumer arises only in C to C, where the consumer is dealing with another consumer, and B to C, where the business houses are dealing with the consumer. Now in these two areas they need protection, and this is how the protection is being created and provided. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 has recognized e-commerce as a potential area where consumers could be exploited. Consumer e-commerce rules 2021 is the direct provisions which protect the consumers against exploitations online, and my discussion is going to be how to protect the consumers in the online dealings. So I would be coming up with a new series, new episode dealing with different